As you look at me now, what do you see? Every morning as I wake up and I look in the mirror, I see my father's ears, those huge Irish potatoes that bring others to the table by always listening with compassion. I see my grandmother's hair, fine but firm with waves, like the ones that surrounded her home of Puerto Rico that she emigrated from at just 8 years old. I see my grandfather's smile, the one whose laughter used to fill the entire house over Thanksgiving celebrations, letting go of all the pain that he held as a black man born into a Jim Crow America. I see my mother's eyes, burning with the same ambition to succeed that uplifted her from the streets of Spanish Harlem to the suburbs of New York. I look away and carry on with my day. But as I interact with other people, I start to question what it is they see when they tell me things like, "Aren't you Italian? You're white, but you're tan." Or, "Eh, que bueno, your Spanish accent's actually pretty good." Or, "Yeah, but you're not actually black." My name is Zack Doherty, and for the first time, I feel truly proud to say that I'm multiracial. To me, being multiracial is like looking through a kaleidoscope, a lens whose image changes from every angle you look at it. There's no checkbox on a survey that could possibly contain the multitude of mixes we see as multiracial. Being mestizo is very different than being Blasian. And yet, there's a common thread that ties these stories together, one of authenticity and ambiguity, obstacles and opportunities. So may my story paint just one portrait of the various changing shades of America. Now, without getting too technical on the breakdown of my 23andMe profile, my race or biological ancestry is predominantly Irish, Puerto Rican, and African American. And so growing up exposed to different cultures, I learned to draw bits and pieces from each. I spent Easters excitedly hunting for eggs with my extended Irish American family through lush gardens. Over weekends, I'd pass countless hours with my grandma drinking asopao, listening to soothing bedtime stories. And then on special occasions, my grandpa would pick me up in his 1987 Lincoln. We'd cruise the glossy streets of New York City, listening to black legends like Miles Davis on the radio. And so growing up exposed to different cultures, I realized that I could take from each of those experiences to connect with people from all different walks of life. But what I didn't realize at the time was that those experiences, which were so obviously interconnected in my eyes, seemed worlds apart in everyone else's. Sure, I could watch a Guillermo del Toro film without subtitles, or I could quote deep cuts off a Lil Wayne soundtrack. But I wasn't authentic enough to be invited to friends' quinceañeras. I wasn't real because I couldn't dance the Soulja Boy. And fun fact, I still can't. I'm actually terrible. I was neither in nor out. On the one hand, feeling like I had access to multiple communities, but on the other, not really fitting into any of them. It turns out this tension that I always felt with my race has a long-standing legacy in American history. If we turn the pages back to the early 1800s, we see the birth of the concept of the tragic mulatto, the bastard child of a white male landowner and a black female slave, shunned by both groups for being neither fully white nor fully black. After the Civil War, we saw this evolve into the act of passing, where a mixed-race person would physically and socially present as white, downplaying their blackness in order to fit into the mainstream society. In fact, it wasn't until just as recently as 1967 that interracial marriage even became legal in the United States at all. And just to put that into perspective, in the years that both my mother and father were born, their marriage would have been prohibited, and my very existence would have been treated as illegitimate. So, one step at a time, obviously society has come a long way today. And yet, a lot of the challenges often associated with being multiracial remain the same. Throughout my life, I felt deeply uncomfortable even talking about my race. Sure, I may have mixed blood on the inside, but on the outside, I mostly appear white, and I grew up predominantly in and around white communities. And quite frankly, I've been very fortunate in that I haven't had to face a lot of the challenges that are often experienced by communities of color. But my mom has, and my grandparents have, and my ancestors definitely have. So I often feel conflicted, even guilty, claiming my blackness and brownness, even though they make up such a critical part of who I am and where I come from. In fact, the only reason I even decided to show my family photos at the beginning of this presentation was because I felt like I had to prove myself to all of you. And honestly, I hate having to censor, explain, and defend who I am when everyone else seems to walk around with internal assurance and external validation in their identities. Again, these frustrations are neither unique nor uncommon. According to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, 25% of all Americans living with mental health disorders identify as multiracial. This number is especially staggering if we look at recent US Census data. From just 2010 to 2020, the number of Americans who identified as multiracial ballooned from just 9 million to over 34 million. Experiences like mine are becoming the new norm. And yet, as we look at current events for even just the last 12 months, from corporate rollbacks of DEI resources to the Supreme Court's repeal of affirmative action, we seem to be undergoing a new racial reckoning in America. These circumstances are only going to become increasingly challenging as the fabric of American society continues to change color. Our children, our children's children, and beyond are going to be born into a world more racially mixed and interwoven than our own. This touches all of us. Now is the time to rewrite the narrative of what it means to be multiracial, so that future generations aren't born feeling the same uncertainty about their race that I felt. So if we all make small changes in how we think about race today, we can create systemic changes where everyone can feel a place and sense of belonging for tomorrow. I invite you to join me in looking at multiracial identity through a new lens, keeping in mind these three outlooks. First, multiracial experiences are unique and they're valid. My stories, like the times I watched as someone treated my mom like my babysitter, may not be the first ones that come to mind when we talk about issues related to race. However, everyone deserves to have a feeling and sense of belonging. Second, being multiracial facilitates connections. By accessing different tribes and offering outside perspectives, multiracial groups can build bridges between otherwise separate worlds. And third, multiracial groups can be their own communities. Recent experiences, like a conversational lunch I hosted on this topic, have taught me that I'm actually not alone in the way that I feel, which inspires me to continue to create the space for multiracial people to bring all their nuances. As I reflect back on how I used to think about my race, I always felt like I wasn't enough. But now, I'm finding a new sense of wholeness by integrating my multiple identities. Looking through the kaleidoscope, I can see that my racial identities are neither lacking nor disjointed. Rather, each fractal is complete in and of itself. And together, they create an image that is far greater than the sum of their parts. Maybe that's already the way you looked at people. After all, everyone, regardless of their race, is a unique mixture of colors and contours, backgrounds and experiences. None of us can be reduced to simple survey checkboxes. So my hope is this, that we critically rethink how we treat people, suspending our assumptions and judgments. That we embrace people for their full, complex selves. And ultimately, that we shape our world so that everyone can feel a sense of belonging. So one last time, my question to you is, as you look at me now, what do you see? Thank you.